And last, and most definitely not least, near. You have a certain series that's been making the rounds recently.
Yeah, it's pretty niche, I think.
Yeah,
Um,
nobody's been talking about it
yeah,
actually.
not many people have really been talking about this series.
Yeah.
Yeah, I watched
Yes,
also
sir.
known
Never heard of it.
as Dandadan. Um,
Uh-huh.
Is it
Space out,
related
yeah.
to Bobobo?
no,
Oh,
yeah,
then why
sorry.
watch it?
Um, yeah, this is a manga original, uh,
Yeah.
done by Science
Shonen Jump
Saru.
Plus. Yeah.
Yeah, this is a Shonen Jump series. So
This is a
you know,
digital
so it must be
magazine.
good.
Yeah. No.
Um, yeah, ongoing manga right now. So you know, but yeah, Science Saru, the studio founded by pretty prolific director Masaki Yuasa.
hmm
Um, if you haven't heard of him, uh, you're stupid. Um, he
I
made
mean, I
he's
agree. I agree.
yeah he's the guy that um directed and wrote Kaiba. He was also in charge of Devilman Crybaby, Eizouken,
hmm
um, what, Tatami Galaxy, Ping Pong, the animation, um, and Mind Games, right? I
Yeah.
think he also did that as well. Um, and yeah, he's not on this, but you know, I'm
But
sure
I believe the
he's
yeah,
cooking something up.
yeah, but I think the staff, at least one of the members, is was part of the Azoken, the legendary
Yes.
Azoken team, right?
So the director, Fuga Yamashiro, was
hmm
assistant director on. Was it on Azo? Yeah, he was assistant director alongside Yuasa on Azoken. He also directed Inuo, which was also a Science Saru production, and
hmm
Inuo, which was a movie, I believe, like a full movie.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Seems to be, from what I can see, the main sort of thread that a lot of the talent has been involved in previously.
Oh,
Um,
okay, okay.
it seems to be one of the bigger projects that like most of the Science Saru like core staff that are on this project came from. A lot of
hmm
them also worked for or worked on Super Shiro, which was like a weird short thing that Science Saru did. But um, yeah, um, yeah, Fugiyama Shido, director. He's assistant directed quite a bit of stuff alongside Yuasa, so obviously
hmm
he's got the chops, he's got the experience.
Yep.
A couple other noteworthy staff. I mean, there's an absolute fucking dickload of animation directors and key animators on this. Um, a lot of talent in both Japan and Korea and China. They're pulling in quite a bit of people on this. There's obviously
They
a lot.
got more money than
There's a
just
lot of fucking
yeah,
money behind this project.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
But a couple interesting names. Obviously, Ushio Kensuke is doing the music. Um, probably, probably my favorite man in the industry right now doing music for anime. He's previously worked on Heike Monogatari, also Chainsaw
hmm
Man,
hmm
Tengoku Daimakyo, um, a lot of really good stuff. He also
Yeah.
did the Boogie Pop remake as well.
Jesus
So yeah,
Christ.
he's
He is
uh
like yeah,
he's a talented
he
man.
is essentially the guy that like at anime conventions you can be like you can push up your glasses and like measure him.
Yeah, yeah,
Essentially he's that guy. Yeah.
he is that guy. And another interesting name was Junichi Higashi, which is the art director. So he's the guy in charge of all the background art and stuff. Um,
Mhm.
he's a bit of an old head. He's worked on stuff like Zeta Gundam, Escaflowne, Cowboy Bebop.
Never
Um,
heard of those.
yeah, pretty niche series. But the one thing that caught my eye, which was kind of like, oh, he worked on that. That's cool. He also worked on Alien 9, which was an old OVA that's a bit close to
Mhm.
my heart. So yeah, very very talented staff on this. Um, but yeah, the basic premise is the two main characters, Ayase Momo and Ken Takakura, also known as Okarun, um, sort of have an unlikely meeting. They um, sort of challenge each other to subsequent, like, sort of simultaneous dares,
Mhm.
where one dares the other to go to a supernatural hotspot to prove the existence of ghosts, and the other dares to go to a UFO hotspot to prove the existence of aliens. Um, and on the same night, they get, uh, they both sort of have encounters
Yeah.
with,
Proving, yeah,
their respective supernatural,
that they don't
you know,
believe in.
yeah,
Right.
entities that they didn't believe in previously.
Right, exactly.
Some stuff happens. Okudon gets cursed by an evil spirit known as Turbo Granny, who
Mhm.
steals his wiener.
Yeah.
Um,
He becomes the, ballless devil,
yeah,
essentially.
yeah. And then from then on forth, they sort of, get caught up in hijinks, attempting to, get his wiener back.
Yeah.
And they become fast friends after that. There is a pretty predominant romance subplot that's
Yeah.
sort of the backbone between the deuteragonists relationship.
It's
Um,
pretty standard, yeah.
yeah, it's pretty solid too. The two main characters they sort of banter quite a bit. They bicker as one would
Mm.
expect from a standard um, male female lead shonen series uh, from this day and age. Um, it's worth noting that there are, like, later on down the lines, there is a supporting female that sort of acts as a uh, love triangle kind of thing. And then later on
Mhm.
down the line, there's also another supporting male lead that adds as another sort of love triangle thing. I don't think it's, from what I've heard from the manga, it's not like super predominant. But there was a sort of viral like interview snippet that went around Twitter not too long after the anime premiered, where the original manga author, um, apparently his editor, uh, upon reading like the initial drafts for the story, was like, "You have no idea how romance works at all." And he forced him to read over 100 shoujo manga.
God, like
Yeah,
I like
so
the solution is also to
yeah,
force it to read
not
shoujo
great, not
manga.
really the best solution,
Yeah.
but
Oh my god.
beggars can't be
Yeah.
choosers, I suppose.
Yeah, I feel like
Yeah.
it's more so you don't know what sells, more
Yeah,
so than
Yeah,
yeah,
like
yeah.
but
That's what he was trying to. But it's like, yeah.
yeah. The story's pretty good. I think the characters are all done quite well. It helps that the voice cast is, quite talented. There's
Yes.
a lot of comedic banter. Um, a lot of, it's pretty standard shonen fare, right? A lot
Yeah,
of
yeah, yeah,
comedy,
yeah.
a lot of slapstick stuff, a lot of action.
I
Um,
think Wakayama Shion got like a lot of highlight this time around because she's acting as like the main heroine, right? I believe
yeah, she's
she's playing the
Momo. And Momo
yeah,
is sort of a, I guess, Gyaru-esque, bit of a delinquent, you know.
yeah,
Um,
brash, yeah, Furio
yeah,
kind of, yeah.
and she does a really really good job.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Wakayama Shion, she previously did what's this bitch's name?
The tan girl
Yakishio
and like
Lemon, yeah, the brown
yeah,
girl
yeah,
from
yeah, yeah.
Makine.
Yes,
Um,
yes, yes.
I think her previous like big role before that was fuck. What is she? Oh yeah, she was she was I in what is this called again? Tsukimega. Um,
Oh, okay. I
Yeah.
think I know what you're talking
So, you know,
The thing is, she does like these kind of Genki, kind of younger voices very well. Again, she's a much younger voice actress, relative, right, to the general age
yeah.
herself,
Yeah.
and her kind of her being able to kind of burst out this like more energetic voice almost reminds me of an Ayane Sakura, right? Because obviously Ayane Sakura does nowadays do more of like the girlish voices, like the standard girlish voices, and a lot of like kudere voices, but when she was younger, right, even just a couple of years back too, she used to do a ton of younger boy voices for stuff like kids shows, right, like um like beat 'em on or whatever it is, like the fucking like younger robot kind of series stuff like that,
Yeah.
and um she does a lot of like these screams and stuff like that, and I think Wakayama is similar in that way, in terms of being able to kind of belt that voice out.
Yeah, I think this is probably her first like big role that kind of shows her
Really put her into the spotlight. Yeah,
yeah, it also shows like her um
range.
range. Yeah, that's what I
Yeah,
was
yeah.
looking for. Because like previously, like even in Makine, like yeah, she was voicing the tomboy character, but it wasn't really like it was mostly kind of just like I feel like her role in that show was kind of just like etchy bait, right? So it
Yeah,
was
yeah,
mostly
yeah, yeah,
being
yeah,
like
yeah.
kind of demure, a bit spunky here and there, but like here she really has the opportunity to like, she really can belt out the groans, the eye rolls, the sort of lower voice that Momo has,
Mhm.
alongside the shouts, the screams, you know, that come with a lot of the fights and stuff.
Yeah.
She does a really good job for sure.
Near, you
Um,
can't say demure anymore.
why?
The TikTok generation loves the word demure.
Okay. I don't know what that means, but sure. I'm gonna keep saying it, regardless of what people think. So, but yeah, Okudun is done by Natsuki Hanae. He's doing standard, you know, um, male protagonist voice that he pretty much always does. But he's got really good comedic timings, so it helps quite a lot.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Um, it is fun that Okudun as a character has this sort of uh, the shonen sort of power that he has where he transforms and becomes a super badass awesome dude to
Mhm.
fight. Whenever he transforms, he turns into a very sort of um, nihilistic, sort of depressed downer dude. Um,
Mhm.
and his sort of vocab kind of takes a sort of slang bent to it. He does a pretty good job with it.
Do you think
Um,
so this is an interesting question, but I personally feel like, I mean, it might just for me it might be like a first girl wins kind of bias, but I have this thing where I feel like the story is more centered around the girl, and the girl is sort of the protagonist, with the boy being a secondary deuteragonist. But
yes.
I guess in that sense, or do you think it's much more kind of balancing, kind of it's like an index kind of thing, or index kind of situation? I guess
So I think early
it's only a
on,
subtle difference, but yeah.
yeah, I think early on it's pretty balanced. One
Hmm.
thing I did like is that for the first 5, 6 episodes, I
No.
did have a sort of thought in the back of my head where I was like, I feel like this is one of the few series with a deuteragonist where like
Hmm.
the story is actually like being told from like both characters' perspectives,
Yeah,
right? Like
it's
they
balanced.
actually
Again, it's
have
like an
like
index kind of thing.
yeah, they
Yeah.
actually have like an even amount of screen time.
Hmm.
Both their motivations are being displayed,
You're right. Exactly.
prominently on screen.
Yeah.
I do
They're
hear that
equally weighted. Yeah.
yeah, I do hear that like right now in the manga, it is like Momo is effectively the main character and
Hmm.
Okudun is a bit more of a like side character.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah. Yeah.
but I hear it does sort of bounce uh between them, depending on like what arc is currently going on. So
Mhm.
it from what's in the show right now, it's very balanced. But from what I hear later on, it sort of ping pongs between them, which is interesting. But yeah, it does feel like a very balanced sort of deuteragonist scenario right now, which I like a lot. It's not
Yeah,
something
yeah.
that you see very often, right? Because like
I do, and I
usually,
think it also kind of, how to say this? It mutes the negative value of the potential negative reception of a standard romantic subplot a little bit more, because it's like the girl is there and the girl is kind of doing this stuff, and then the romance subplot kind of comes to her instead of, or the romance subplot kind of develops kind of more naturally from there, or at least it feels like that. Whereas, I feel like, I'm not sure how quote unquote like woke this is or whatever the kids like to say, but it's like if Okarun had been more of like the definite focus in the series and continued like that, and then it kind of became like the girl's like, "Oh, I have my own occult problems as well, but I guess I'll join you along for the ride." I feel like it would have been a much more bland romantic subplot, something that we've seen much more before, and not that interesting. You know what I mean? So,
yeah, I feel like the way it's set up right now is that like both
yeah.
characters very much have the agency to pursue, whatever it is they're pursuing,
Yeah,
but
they're equal
also,
partners. Yeah.
yeah, like the romance feels a very much like an equal sort of tug of war between the two deuteragonists, right? Like,
Mm.
um, I don't know how far up along you got, but I forget what episode it is. It's in. I think it's like 5. But there's a scene where they're at school, right?
Mm.
And they're in different classrooms, right? So when like when the lunch break happens, they sort of go to look for each other, right? And because the hallways are busy, they end up missing each other, right? Um,
Mhm.
and they end up, it's sort of this, you know, bit where, as they're thinking of like, where could Momo be or where could Okurun be, they end up missing each other over and over and over again, like wandering through the school, right?
Yeah.
And I feel like this scene sort of demonstrates that like they're equally pursuing like wanting to be friends with each other, talk to each other, be around each other, as opposed to it just being like Okurun wanting to make a friend and Momo is kind of just like, yeah, I guess I'll do that, right? It's
Yeah, it's
it's
like, "I
very
guess
much
I'll
like
come
they
along for the
both,
ride, and you seem like a cool, manly guy." It's not
yeah,
really
they
like that.
both
Yeah,
want to be friends with each other. They both want to see each other,
yeah.
right?
And they also
Um
have their own, like, fucking interests, and it's not just like even when for instance, like in harem isekai, right? Even when they say a girl has these, that, and those likes, right? Like, for instance, like the blonde elf girl likes cooking. It's for like a very niche like segment,
yeah.
but in this one, Momo and Okurun both have very defined interests and like a set of proper organic likes. And then they develop the relationship around that as well, right?
Yeah, yeah. If
Yeah.
it's a really good balance, I think. It's done
Yeah.
quite well.
But Near, have you mentioned the most important thing?
What
Who's stronger?
in terms of what?
Mm.
Who's stronger? Who's moves? Who's stronger, Near?
In like combat, in like
Hell yeah!
battle?
Combat?
It's always about
Um,
combat.
so
Who would win in a fight?
I mean probably Momo, because she's like fucking Xavier, dude. But
Yeah, she actually has like psychic wave powers now or some shit like that,
yeah.
right? So
Um, but yeah, it is like again speaking it like that is actually a good question because like the balance sort of thing actually transfers over into like when they fight as well because um in a standard shonen, right, the main character, the main dude, right, he gets the ability to transform, right? And like that's kind of it, right? Like it's like, oh, he transforms, the battle is over, right? Like that's like,
Mhm.
he transforms, he beats the monster, the day is saved, right? But in this, it's like Okudun has the ability to transform, but it's sort of
Mhm.
initially set up pretty early on that he can only do it in like really short bursts, and he can only go like quote unquote all out 2 times before he literally can't even move, right? Um, and so they kind of set up this dynamic where Momo is the one that kind of has to like fight, and then Okudun's kind of the one that has to like deliver the finishing blow, right?
Mhm.
So they're
It's like hey, Okaru's kind of in like a Rock Lee situation here. He can't
yeah,
release the gates all the time, right?
yeah. Um,
Yeah.
and it's cool. Like they have to, actually, use teamwork to fight
Mhm.
some of these monsters and ghosts. Um, it's cool. Um,
So it's like End of Eternity, where you can only where you deal what is it? Where you deal soft damage using machine guns, and then you have to deal like permanent damage with handguns.
No,
that's an
yeah.
insane comparison, but yeah, you're actually kind of right.
Yeah.
Hell yeah!
Um, yeah. Yeah, I really like the character dynamic between
Mhm.
Okuden and Momo. Um,
Yeah.
uh, yeah, as for the story pacing, it's surprisingly slow in the adaptation. We're up to like
Yeah. Yeah,
we're up
so
to like 8 episodes now, and
you think this is gonna
uh,
go for a second season or what? What's
I
happening here?
mean, I would be shocked if this isn't already like planned for a second
Yeah,
season.
exactly.
I don't think it's been
Especially with
like
all the money in it. Yeah.
yeah, I don't think it's been like
Like
publicly greenlit or anything, but I would be shocked if it's
yeah,
not being
it's
like
probably already in the stocks from like 3 years back, and they just haven't like fully announced it. Yeah, I
yeah.
think that's pretty much how
Um,
it is.
but yeah, the pacing right now is pretty slow. We're 8 episodes in, and Jin hasn't been introduced yet. Like we've only just recently gotten Ira introduced, which is sort of um the female sort of supporting, I guess, romantic competition, quote unquote. A little bit of banter here and there
Mhm.
between Momo. Um, so like the introduction of like just the core cast has been quite slow. I'm not really sure what this sort of cutoff is going to be for the first season. Because I personally haven't read ahead to the manga. I haven't really
Mhm.
heard talks of what like any major arc is that it could end on. So far it's been relatively low stakes, like mini arcs. Um, like the main arc of like getting his wiener back is like the first arc, and then afterwards they have to get his balls back. Which is the second arc, I guess. I don't know if maybe they end on he gets his balls back, and then they sort of transition to maybe a bit of a monster of the week format. I'm
Yeah.
not too sure, but
No, near near he
The
has
carrot
to
and the stick is that he can get bigger. Okay,
yeah,
think
true.
about it.
he gets his wiener back. Then he gets one ball. Then he gets the other
Yes,
one, and then he
yes,
gets I don't know.
yeah.
Or
So right
I
now,
don't know where we're
I'm
going.
pretty
I saw some
sure.
spoilers, but what I'll say is I feel like it's probably going to go towards more of like it won't be maybe as long as this current arc, but it'll probably be still like maybe mini arcs format ish. I feel like I
Yeah,
think that's the best way to go about it. Probably.
for sure, for sure.
Yeah.
But yeah. Um, audio
You want to
visuals.
go? Yeah.
Um,
You want to go over the
Hold on,
audio visual set?
hold on, near
Yeah.
hold
Okay.
on,
Okay.
near.
No, Tesca.
What is the Dan?
uh, I don't
Has
know.
the Dan showed up in the series yet?
I don't think so. Um, I don't know if that's like an actual thing. I don't really know why it's called Dandadan, but yeah.
Yeah, me either,
I don't know.
honestly.
I don't know if that's like an actual like thing in the series or not, but they haven't like name dropped Dandadan or anything. But yeah.
I
Um,
thought that was just supposed to be like a goofy, like a playful, like
like
plosive.
onomatopoeia or something. I
Yeah,
have no idea.
No,
Um,
because I
originally
forget what I
is,
said.
but
Wasn't it in one of the trailers like where they do that? specifically,
probably.
like as the title comes in.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, audio visuals. Again, Science Saru.
Yeah.
They're kind of really good. They've kind
It
of
kind of like lauded universally.
yeah. They've definitely pretty much always been on sort of the cutting edge for visual style.
Yep.
And even in some of their more, I guess, budget works,
Mm.
they've still had very good animation, very good character animation, especially. They do very good jobs at animating sort of um, the body moving, acting as it will. Um, and this transfers over pretty well to Dandadan. The action scenes are done very very well. It helps that Science Studio has some of the most talented storyboarders and animation directors working for them
Yeah.
right now. Um, Pretty much all of the directing is very top tier. The action scenes are storyboarded in very creative manners. A lot of really, really cool cuts. A lot of very,
I
very
told Nier
impressive cuts.
yeah. I told Nier this before the podcast, but I said the intro sequence of episode 1 for Dandadan alone has some has more animation quality in that single sequence than some entire anime have during this season. This is not a joke. This is not an overstatement. This just you can obviously, no animator really like truly just hates working on like the anime that they're on, right? Unless it's like they're under like a shitty director or something like that, right? But it's like in terms of like their actual work, nobody like hates drawing stuff. But especially in Dandadan, I feel like it's one of those series where you can tell that they really love and were allowed to do what they love to do and just kind of go all out in drawing these scenes. You can really tell. So
Yeah.
yeah.
Um, there's I don't want to spoil it,
Hmm.
but there's a sort of, I guess, a flashback sequence in episode 7. And the way it's directed, there's a sort of cut. Um, all I'll say is it's a sort of flashback scene of a a character who was a ballerina, right?
Hmm.
And there's a cut in it that is this sort of montage, sort of over the course of time thing. And the way they do it is this sort of spinning camera. And then as the camera spins, like time passes, the characters throughout the room, um, are doing things. And so, it's just such a well directed, like well storyboarded sequence. Um,
Mm.
it's legitimately like I really think like this sequence, like this episode deserves
Mhm.
some sort of award, like just straight up. It's really it's genuinely like one of the craziest like single episodes of a show I've seen in a very long time.
It's like
Uh,
it's like it's like Welcome to the Ballroom wants that sequence essentially.
yeah, it helps that it's also one of the most like emotional episodes in like the entire show. When I watched this episode, I literally cried like a fucking baby for like 30 minutes afterward. Like it was legitimately gut wrenching. Um, it's an incredible episode, and I think it's definitely one of those like I, I feel like it's one of those episodes that kind of cements a show in your memory for like years to come, if not like forever. Like
Honestly,
it's such an
initially,
incredible episode.
um, like I think people were comparing this to Kill a Kill before had watched it, right? And while I think the comparison is a little bit still apples to oranges, I do empathize with their sentiments now that I've watched it. You know what I mean?
I think it's more
Yeah,
like a Cyberpunk 2077. 20, no, Edge
Yeah.
Runners. That's what it is. Yeah,
Edge
that's the
Runners,
one.
yeah.
Yeah, I think it's more like an Edge Runners.
But
When's
it is
the Guilty Gear
very good.
DLC?
Yeah. It's just very, 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 very good. I mean, there's not, and I also said this, but I I solidly think it's definitely a candidate for anime of the year, Dandadan at this point for everybody that who's watched it. I think so.
For sure, for sure.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's for the visuals, right?
Mm.
As for the music, um, again, Ushio Kensuke. Um, I think I've I think I've given Ushio Kensuke my like whatever anime he's worked on. I think I've given him like best music of the year award like fucking for like 3 or
Billion
4
times.
years in a row now.
Yeah.
I don't even know, but yeah, this is probably gonna win mine again, because
Mm.
it's really really good. There's a lot of really really creative, inventive tracks in this uh, that they sort of pop out to you, but they're not like intrusive. You know what I mean? They don't
Right.
take you out of the viewing experience. Um, and you know, uh, like Ushio Kensuke knows that the more comedic timings call for some of the more outspoken um, background tracks, and then some of the more emotional scenes call for much more subdued, um, you know, uh, music, right? Like just more,
Right.
um, you know, in the background, just
It's not just like
complementing the
all full
scene.
orchestral. It's not
Yeah.
like yeah.
Um, it's it's just such a good soundtrack.
Mhm.
And yeah, it really elevates this series, I think. Um,
Yeah.
the as for the OP and ED, um, the OP is Otonoke by Creepy Nuts. I think
Mm.
this is Creepy Nuts' second, extremely viral, extremely catchy,
Third?
extremely well animated OP of the year.
Yeah.
Oh,
Um,
this year.
Yeah. This year. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
um, it's really, really, really good. I'm gonna probably have a hard time going back through OPs this year to find something that tops it. But it's insanely catchy. It's been
Mhm.
stuck in my head pretty much ever since it came out. It's really well animated. It's really creative. It's just overall a very very fun OP. Um, Definitely embodies the sort of spirit of the series very well. The ED is Taidadai by Zutamayo.
Mhm.
Um,
That's
it's
very famous. Yeah.
a little bit more boring, I'd say. But the visuals are fun. The track is fun. It's cozy. Um, but it's when you're competing with Creepy Nuts, it's easy to get
It's
overshadowed,
hard.
right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Um,
It's hard to look down. It's easy to like for us, especially us, to kind of look down. But it's like again, it's very good, and again, it's competing with Creepy Nuts,
yeah,
so
it,
it's
it
hard.
it is
Yeah.
a very good ED, I will say.
Yeah.
But it's hard when you're in the shadow of a giant, right? So,
Mhm.
um, but yeah, overall, audio visuals are some of the best of the year. I think in terms of the overall cohesive, uh, like all-in-one package, it's hard to top, right? I think in
Yeah.
terms of raw visuals, something like Elusive Samurai comes ahead, you know, just a little bit. In terms of the whole audio visual package, I don't really know what beats this.
Yeah,
It's
I don't think anything beats this season. It's very hard, I
yeah,
think. I need to
it's really
refrain.
tough competition.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Again, yeah. As for the overall package, overall series, um, I mean, like it's good, right? Like,
Good. Yeah,
I, I feel
it's
like I feel like if you're,
there's
I feel like if
no
you sort of
real
go into
holes in
this,
it, yeah. It's
yeah,
the
I feel
big
like if you
thing.
go into this and you sort of watch, more than, you know, uh, I feel like the 3 episode rule is a bit tricky with this one because the first arc is sort of like 5 episodes long, right?
Mhm.
So this one I feel like is you kind of got to give it, if you're sort of watching it and you're not too sure about it, you do have to give it a little bit more um, breathing room, I guess. But
Mhm.
I think if you go into this and you watch like 6 episodes, and you're like, I think this sucks. Um, I'm pretty sure you're just intentionally being contrarian.
Yeah,
Like
you're just kind of trolling. Yeah.
you're either like baiting for engagement on Twitter, or you're like an actual just like you just hate shonen, like as a
Or
as a
anime.
Oh
yeah.
Or
yeah,
I
anime,
mean
yeah.
that's also possible too, because
oh yeah, Near. But is it better than Devilman Crybaby? Got
see
you there.
that's really hard because I like Devilman Crybaby a lot. Like Devilman Crybaby is really good.
Is this the Devilman Crybaby of the new generation?
Um, I mean, maybe. Uh, it is really good. I think it's definitely neck and neck with Devilman Crybaby. For sure. Um, I will say I think in terms of like something for general audiences, this is probably better than Azukin. Um,
Mhm.
just because it's a bit easier to digest. Azukin is
Well,
very
there's
much a
something
sort
like
of
a little bit of action if you're like really that type, right?
yeah, and
Like so.
Azukin is very much a sort of celebration of like the medium throughout its entire history. So
Mhm.
if you're a bit newer to anime, Azukin's probably not just, I don't want to sound pretentious, but like it will go over your head a little bit, right?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
But, yeah, I mean this is one of the easiest recommends like you could have since something
Yeah.
like Frieren, right? Like you should just watch
Yeah.
it, right?
Yeah.
Like it's just it's pretty much
Even if
mandatory
like you don't
watching
understand,
if
even
you're
if like let's say in some world, in some timeline, you don't understand the story, you can still have a good time just by watching what is like the animations on the screen. Like this is one of those series.
yeah, for
So
sure. Um yeah, there's pretty much no person out there that I wouldn't recommend this to. I think
mm,
it's overall a very good package. Uh
yeah,
it stands pretty much head and shoulders above uh almost all of the modern shonen coming out right now.
yeah,
Um it's good. Right
yeah.
now it's sitting at an 8.7 on Mall. It's
That's very
it's
good. Yeah,
pretty high for Mall.
yeah.
I still
I
think
don't, and I don't think I've heard anybody on online like even just really properly like doing an actual criticism of it, right? I'm pretty sure it's almost been universal in terms of praise
yeah, pretty
for it.
much. Again, I think the only people that are like, I hate Dandadan are people that are like,
Farming,
yeah, they're
farming.
farming engagement bait, or um, they're like that one dude I saw on Twitter where it's like Blue Lock should have gotten this animation
Oh
instead, and it's like,
yeah.
what are you talking about, man?
Dandadan didn't
Um,
deserve the Sakugs. It's like,
yeah,
brother, what are you talking about,
like
man?
you're just like a weirdly like bitter person.
Yeah. It's
But
not
yeah,
even
like
like Blue Lock didn't get the money. Blue Lock got a lot of freaking money.
yeah,
Like,
but
what are you talking about? Yeah.
yeah, I'd probably
Okay.
give this an easy 9. Um,
Mm.
it's good. Like
Alright.
there's really not much that you can sort of uh detract from this series.
Mhm, mhm.
It is very very good. So
Yeah. All right. Well, again, thank you so much for helping to cover Dandan properly. Again, this is Dandan. I believe this is a manga original
yep,
or yeah, manga original. Um, adapted into anime by none other than the now infamous Science Saru, who they have been popping off in the recent years, and I'm so glad that obviously, you know, it's not just Bamco suck and IG like sucking up all the studios and just putting them under one and Cyber Agent putting them under one umbrella. And I'm glad that more of these size sort of smaller studios can get the money, can get the projects that they want and properly animate it. And whether it's Science Saru, whether it's Orange, studios like that. And I hope they continue to make more great works in the future like this. But
Oh,
Dandadan,
I will
yeah.
say another really strong piece of evidence that Dandadan is probably going to get multiple seasons is that the
Mm-hmm.
only other project Science Starter has slated right now is
Uh-huh.
the upcoming Ghost in the Shell anime, and that's slated
Ah,
for
yeah, yeah.
2026.
Yeah,
So,
yeah, yeah. Okay. Yeah, for sure. There's definitely it's probably already stockpiled. They just haven't
yeah.
announced it yet. But yeah. But yeah, again, this is one of those series this season, this year, and any year really, where if you if you are like, oh, I'm an anime watcher, I'm an anime lover, bro, you write that shit on your Twitter profile, whatever. Why are you not watching this series? You should watch the series. So that's pretty much it. Again, thank you, Nier, for helping cover this. This is Dandathon.